Hello YouTube, it's Lion here with Hobbies of a Man once again, and today we are doing another manga review. So today's manga review is going to be over Beastars Volume 1 and 2, and this is written by Paru Itagaki, who is a female mangaka. It's published by Viz Media, as you guys can see right there. It's a signature edition, so it's an oversized tankobon, and the genres here are coming of age, drama, and fantasy. And this is technically a seinen, and it's labeled older teen in the back of the book. It has a Netflix adaptation, but yeah, it has a Netflix adaptation. It's this weird 3D style, so I didn't really want to watch it, but apparently people say it's rather good. So the premise here is kind of difficult to explain. Like, essentially, I'll rather tell you the premise of the world more than the premise of the story. So the world here is split into two groups: predators and prey, carnivores and herbivores, essentially. I don't really know where, like, omnivores stand. I guess they're, like, depends. I don't know. And basically, the herbivores are in charge. The predators are not second-rate citizens, but, like, pretty darn close. They're really limited in what they can do and how they can do things because their natural urges are to be violent. Although it's not, is it really violence if it's your natural necessity? It's kind of interesting how they kind of set that up. And the story opens with the murder of one of the students, in this case Tem the alpaca, and then that kind of sets up the whole situation, and it really explains to you that, you know, herbivores are deadly afraid of predators, of carnivores, and they also all hold the power in this society. It's kind of interesting how it all sets up. But I can't really, like, explain general things because it's not really, like, that easy to, like, explain. It would sound rather boring. So I'll try my best. So I'm going to do these separately. I'll, like, tell you the plot of the first book and then the plot of the second one, and then everything else is going to be combined. So the plot of the first volume is the opening scene of that murder, and then it's just kind of setting up the story, I guess. You learn about Legoshi, the main character here, the Grey Wolf, and how, like, he kind of is the type of person he is because of the society. He's rather meek and shy and quiet and a bit awkward because he's trying to hide his ferocious nature from people so that he doesn't scare anyone. He's a rather thoughtful individual. We see that there's a drama club that is set up in a high school, Cherryton Academy, and we learn, or we see that there's a lot of distrust for Legoshi initially because people think that he was part of the reason that Tem the alpaca is dead. Eventually, we find out that it's not necessary, that that's not true. And we get a lot of internal conflict between Legoshi. Like, most of the story is internal conflict. It's not necessarily conflict between characters. It's conflict between the nature of each character and the nature of the society they live in. And it's actually really, really interesting. I really enjoy how it works. So the three key plot points of this first volume are basically the murder, the resolution between Legoshi and the herbivores in the club, Legoshi meeting Lewis, the red deer stag. He has horns, and he's a boy, so it's a stag. And the meeting between Legoshi and Haru, the dwarf rabbit. And this volume is mostly character setup. Volume 2 is really where the story picks up a bit. We get another interaction between Legoshi and Haru that's kind of like surprise. And really the interactions here are mostly between Legoshi and Lewis. And we see the dichotomy of a herbivore and a herbivore that wants to have the power of a carnivore, and a carnivore that wants to have the anonymity or, like, the normalcy of a herbivore. And it's kind of interesting how they kind of work. It's really cool in my opinion. And the plot points that are important in that one are Legoshi and Haru meeting, Legoshi and Lewis having a moment where they kind of fight, but not really, and then Legoshi versus Bill the Tiger. And then the big play at the end, which is kind of around which all of those events are centered. And now the characters here are really interesting. I really like Legoshi. I don't necessarily identify with him. I think I would be more like Lewis than I would be Legoshi. I'm not particularly shy or careful around others. I want to be able to be myself without worry, right? And I think that's more like Bill or Lewis than Legoshi. But Legoshi is really interesting because he is someone that's essentially crushed by his society to a certain point, and he doesn't know how to really get around that. And it's really cool to see him trying to like find himself. Haru is interesting, but not very much. She's just kind of like a rabbit, and then she's also like the school slut, I guess. She's not really, or like she is. It's not very clear. But I don't know if it's because of her nature as a rabbit or if it's like that's just who she is. It's difficult to know. But it is interesting, and I enjoy the exploration of like loneliness that she has. It's really compelling. And Lewis is probably the character that has the most like power behind him. He is this guy, and he wants to be a Beastar, which is like an idol of society, a hero of their society, someone that can turn it around and make everyone like coexist well. And so I really enjoy his character. I find it interesting that he's someone that has power, but it's power given to him by the society he finds himself in, and he's not comfortable with that. He wants to have power given by nature, the power of like a predator. And it's really nice and like interesting and like intriguing how that kind of works. It's a cool two-sided coin with Legoshi and Lewis. Bill, he's not really that important. He was important in the second volume, and I don't know how far he goes beyond that. But it was interesting to see one carnivore that's not afraid of being a carnivore in Bill versus a carnivore that is afraid of being a carnivore with Legoshi. But Legoshi still has that steel, that like urge to battle and fight and be powerful in him. It's just he hides it as much as he can in order to keep a low profile. So the characters are really good. That's basically it. There's a lot of other characters, but none of them are really that important to the story. The world building is interesting. I really enjoy this sort of like society based around natural urges, I guess, and how everything is limited for one group and immensely free for another. And it's kind of interesting, and I don't necessarily know if it's like allegorical, but it's very compelling. It's interesting how much thought went into the way that carnivores would survive in a place where they can't eat meat. So it was really interesting. So yeah, the art was enjoyable. There was not a lot of background art. All of it was focused on the characters, and even the characters, they're kind of sketchy. They're not really all that well defined, and I like it. I think it's cool how it looks, but if it was a lot more defined, a lot more like stylized or like realistic, I guess, it would be more interesting. But I think it would actually deter from the story, right? Because the good thing about mild art, or like good but not very eye-catching art, is that you can really focus on the story. If the art was much better than it is now, I think it'd be a lot more difficult to really pay attention to the depth of the story. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that, I guess. There's not really fan service, but there was a few scenes, or a scene, I guess, where there's like a misunderstanding and they're going to have relations, but it's not, it doesn't happen. So yeah, I rate these a 4 out of 5, no, a 4.5 out of 5, or a 5 out of 5. I'm not really sure where I fall. Mostly because I feel that this needs to go for longer. I have to have read more of it to really be able to give it a score. Because each volume is meaningful and important, and it keeps me engaged, but I don't really feel like I'm being told like a big story yet, so it's kind of difficult to grade it. But yeah, 4.5 to 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. I definitely recommend it, and I can't really think of any similar titles in manga, but I guess things that are similar are Zootopia, any of those old anthropomorphic animal movies, and TV shows like Robin Hood, the Disney one, or maybe Lion King as well. Kind of interesting, I guess. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you thought about Beastars, about my review, or if you have recommendations, please drop some in the comments as well. I would really appreciate it, and thank you guys very much for watching. See you guys later.